My name is Andy, and this is the most magical podcast on earth. When I'm not on holiday, Walt Disney World, I'm planning a holiday to Disney. When I'm not planning a holiday to Disney, I'm talking about Disney with other UK fans like me who make the trip to Orlando and the House of the Mouse. So if you too are mad about Mickey, then this is the podcast for you. Maybe you're the Disney novice just thinking about or planning that first ever trip to Walt Disney World and you don't know the difference between Peter Pan and a chip pan. Well, then this really is the podcast for you. Each episode I'll chat to other Disney superfans from around the UK to share their memories, their magical times and their top tips. And this week we talked to Jack, who went quite a lot when he was a kid.
Yeah, we did have annual passes there for a minute or two when we were kids.
We'll also be answering some of your Walt Disney World questions and getting all the latest news from the parks, everything you need to know to have the most magical time at the most magical place on earth. And make sure you keep in touch on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We are at PodMagical. This is the most magical podcast on earth. As part of the Secret Recordings Network, we'll chat some more later on about that brand new Disney offer with the Disney dining and also about some of the lifting of the more restrictions in the parks as well. And we'll get through some of your questions as well. Thank you to Kat, who's been in touch. You can direct message me, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, with any questions you've got. Podmagical is where we are. Kat wants to know, we love the podcast. We've been listening for the last few episodes now because we're thinking about our first ever trip to Walt Disney World next year. But is there a sweet spot? Is there a great time when it's not too hot, not too cold, not too busy? When would be the time to go? Well, wouldn't we all know? I don't think there's any quiet time anymore. There's definitely hot times. June, July, August when it gets really, really hot, and then into September it's still quite warm. December and January can be quite cold, but I'd say if you want to go quiet, I would go the first 2 weeks in December. So if you look on the American calendar when Thanksgiving is, which is always the last Thursday in November, that weekend will be busy. But if you fly out that weekend, the following 2 weeks are pretty quiet because usually it's the run up to Christmas after that. So that's usually a pretty quiet time. And if you don't like it too hot, it's pretty cool as well. Just take a hoodie with you or a Spirit jersey at night when it gets a little bit cold. But that would be what I would say. If you don't like it too hot, too cold, too busy, too quiet, then maybe December, and you get all the Christmas stuff as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that's where you need to go with any questions. Same place if you'd like to be a podcast guest, like Jack. So tell us, why do you love Walt Disney World?
To be honest, I think it's the same as every other guest you've ever had, pretty much. And that's just talking about the sort of immersion and the escapism that you get when you go there. Obviously, Walt wanted his parks to be sort of a place that you could go with your whole family and for the whole family to enjoy, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons that I enjoy going, is because you go with your family and you get that family time together. So are you a Disney geek, or are you a theme park geek, or are you a Disney theme park geek?
A bit
of both, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely a bit of both.
A bit of everything?
Yeah, when I was younger, I think we definitely went more to Disney than any of the other Orlando-based attractions, but definitely as I've grown up and when I was a teenager and things like that, it was definitely both Disney, Universal, and then obviously all the other bits and bobs that you can get up to in Orlando.
Yeah. So you've been going since a kid?
Yeah. I was just over 2 when I first went.
Wow. So I bet you don't even remember your first trip, do you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Definitely more for my parents than for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you got older brothers or sisters, or younger brothers or sisters?
I've got a younger sister. I went without her for that first time.
Oh, that was the best time.
But yeah, we went a few times since.
And it was it every year you were going? It was like the yearly family holiday?
Yeah, we did have annual passes there for a minute or two when we were kids.
That's extreme.
The amount of times we were going, 2 times, maybe 3 times occasionally a year.
So what's your earliest memory of being at Walt Disney World?
To be perfectly frank, because of how early I've been told I went, it's difficult to sort of remember back to those earliest times, obviously.
Yeah.
But I've got, fits and starts of maybe being 4 or 5 when I can first remember things. I remember the sky buckets that used to be in Magic Kingdom. I remember my sister being really, really small and dropping things off of that.
I think I say dropping out of it.
No, not dropping out of the sky bucket.
My sister falling out of one of the cable cars.
No, she lost her Minnie Mouse bucket hat off the side of the sky buckets, and we had to go around in a mass panic trying to find where that had lost.
See, I don't remember them. They must have gone the first time I went in 2000. So yeah. What time scale are we looking at here? What kind of years?
I reckon late 90s, maybe 90. Well, she was born in 97, so
right.
It would have been 98, 99 sort of time, I imagine.
Oh, right. So they must have gone like just before. Can you remember when they got rid of them?
No, I've no idea.
We'll find out. Somebody will let me know.
Someone will Google it. They turned into the Tangled toilets now, didn't they?
Oh, is that where they are now? The Tangled toilets.
Yeah.
So they would have gone when the new Fantasyland opened for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and stuff. That's what they would have gone across there, then, would they?
Well, yeah, perhaps just before that.
Well, what's your favourite memory of all the times you've been?
So obviously, when you think about favourite memories, people might think of the first time on attractions and things. I think it was when I first nailed the Spanish part of "Please Stand Clear of the Doors" on the monorail. The old "Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas."
Do you know what? We're gonna, for the first time, we're going to use that on the end of the podcast because they always wrap up with saying "Please stand clear of the doors." So we'll do that this week, and you can end it for us. Say it again in Spanish.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Wow.
You've got to have the little inflection on it as well, you see.
Yeah, even the inflections. You don't even sound like Manuel from Fawlty Towers. So that's your favourite memory, the first time you nailed that?
No, I don't think it's their favourite memory. I think it'd be, it's just one of those silly little things that you remember.
Yeah.
But my dad always reminds me of the time when I was too small to go on Big Thunder, and I got like this tiny little gold nugget, they called it. It was clearly just a rock that had been spray painted or something, but they said, right, next time you come back, give us this, and if you're tall enough, you can go on. Obviously, it was just a little thing to placate the crying Brit child who couldn't go, who wasn't tall enough to go on the ride. But,
and what happened? Did you take it back?
Took it back next time. I'd grown a bit and also wore, platform shoes and things like that. Was fine.
Backcomb your hair so you could go on.
Yeah.
And did it live up to your expectations?
It did, yeah. I think that's going back to one of the things that I said before about what you love about the place. I think it's that the whole family will get involved in going on roller coasters and things like that. Like, we've always been a bit of an adrenaline seeking family. Yeah. So it's quite nice that you could sort of do all those sorts of things together. I'm not sure if they'd be up for it, now, 15, 20 years later, quite so much going on, the big rides and stuff. But yeah, they love Rock and Roller Coaster, Big Thunder, all those sorts of things when we were growing up. It was getting those milestones to be able to go on those big rides. Yeah,
I suppose you can mark your holidays by how tall you are and what you can go on.
Mm.
And are you still going as a family?
The last time we went was in 2014, just after I'd finished at uni. We were like, we'll go one last time, as we were the children in inverted commas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the last time we went. We're planning a trip coming up, actually.
So with the whole family?
With the whole family, yeah. We used to go with my grandparents when I was very small, but
right.
We didn't take them in 2014.
And in terms of favourite attractions, have you got a favourite attraction? Is it going to be a big roller coaster?
I think it's probably for the nostalgia of it. I think it's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay, classic.
Yeah, one of the old classic rides. Or I love those old rides like Pirates and Carousel of Progress and things like that.
And what is it about Pirates in particular?
I don't know really. It just sort of grabbed me when I was a young boy. I think having the song that everyone would remember, and I'd be singing it for the rest of the holiday, like just annoying everyone going around singing it, but
annoying the family.
Yeah, I think it was just one of those the classic. It stuck with you, sort of.
And
thing.
that would have been a time before the films even came out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when I didn't have Jack Sparrow sat in the thing at the end.
Yeah.
When he was sat in the treasure room at the end of the ride.
There was an absolute outcry when they added that to it, wasn't there? Going, messing around with this for. We'll talk food in just a moment. Let's get a quick update on the news, though, first of all. And the 50th anniversary package is now gone on sale if you're looking to go to Walt Disney World next year. You're looking to book. Is it the return of free dining? Well, kind of. You can get up to $950 of dining credits per room. So if you think about this, it's nowhere near the value you're getting if it was the free dining. So, for example, say 2 adults were going for 10 nights. You would get 20 restaurants, you get 20 quick service, and you get 40 snacks. That's a lot more value than the $950 that you're getting. And bear in mind, if it's 2 adults and 2 kids sharing the same room, you're still getting the $950. And also, that depends on the resort you're staying. Obviously, the deluxe resorts are going to get the $950. If you're staying in the moderate or the more value, you're not going to be getting that. You'll also get the 14-night tickets for the price of 7. You'll get $200 to spend. And the gift basket, you get a 50th anniversary gift basket, which I've got my eye on. That looks very good. So if you're looking at booking, there's an offer. You need to book by the 3rd of August. Obviously, it's on select dates and select resorts as well. At Walt Disney World, outdoor mask requirements have now been lifted. This was the big story that happened literally just after our last podcast came out. Firstly, Universal did it, and Disney said, well, if you're outdoors, you don't need a mask. You still need to take a mask to the parks with you. You'll need it as you're going through the entrance. Obviously, so they know you've got one when you're indoors, when you're in a queue for the attractions, when you're in restaurants and shops. So you will still need a mask. You just don't have to have it on when you're outside. Also, as well, they seem to have increased capacity and they're getting more people on the rides. If you had a look at the queue times over the last week or so, you see the queue times have gone down. They're averaging about 45 minutes, even for things like Flight of Passage. That's because obviously at the minute there's no FastPass and people are just getting on. So it's pretty much you queue and you get on. And the queue times do seem to come down. In terms of FastPass, by the way, there were a few rumours over the last couple of days that it could be returning. People have noticed that they've been testing the FastPass reservation system on the My Disney Experience app for people who are going in August. It comes up and then the app crashes. So maybe they're testing it out. Maybe FastPass is returning very soon. But mind you, the way that things move, by the time this podcast is out, FastPass is probably back up and announced and it's back up to go. And finally, Donald Duck, Jose and Panchito are back at EPCOT. The 3 Caballeros have returned to the Grand Fiesta Tour ride. These animatronics are hand-painted and they're 50 years old. And they haven't been around for a few weeks because, well, they kept falling over, but they have been fully restored now and they're looking at their best. And I can't wait to see them if we can ever go back to Walt Disney World. Hopefully, news over the next few weeks about whether here in the UK we'll get to go to America. There are rumours of a corridor between the UK and the USA when President Joe Biden visits over the next few days. So fingers crossed that comes true. And of course, we'll let you know. We'll be the first to let you know on our socials at least. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Podmagical is where we are. Jack is on the podcast this episode. Let's talk food then when it comes to park food. Are you a bit of a foodie?
Not so much. Thinking back on when we used to go, we didn't really go to that many of the, the big sit-down restaurants that other people have mentioned on the show.
Yeah.
I do remember we went to places like Hollywood and Vine because we could do the Fantasmic dinner package.
Of course.
Which was always a bit of a cheat that my dad used to like, was you didn't have to then either queue up for Fantasmic or in these days and times use a FastPass on it. So
yeah.
That was always a bit of a workaround. That
would you say that would be your favourite place to eat?
To be perfectly frank, it's only Hollywood and Vine and Mickey's Garden Grill that really come to mind when I think of places that we used to eat when I went there.
Yeah, just a couple of character places.
Yeah, I always remember the Worms and Dirt. That was a bit of a weird thing at Mickey's Garden Grill, which was sort of like a chocolate mousse with gummy worms in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always a bit of a nice one from a character point of view.
So what do you tend to do for food? Would you eat before you went or bring some food with you, or just are you a snacker?
In terms of your middle of the day meal, it would just be like grabbing something from a quick service.
Yeah.
And then because we used to stay off property, we'd go to restaurants on I4 or 192, places like that. Your Red Lobsters, your Bahama Breezes, places like that. The American staples rather than doing a big evening meal in the park.
Yeah, and as we said the other week, a bit cheaper as well.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite place to eat on iDrive or anywhere like that?
Definitely Bahama Breeze. It was always sort of kept behind as the fancier night of our holiday was to go to Bahama Breeze. Me and my dad used to put like matching Hawaiian shirts on and things like that and go and sit out there because they often had things like live music and stuff, and it was a bit sort of different from what you get in this country in a family restaurant. So
we're going to ask you for the photographs now. We'd like pictures of you and your dad in your fancy Hawaiian shirts, looking like Bruno Mars.
Hawaiian shirts. Yeah. Looking more like Guy Fieri, to be honest. But
what about where you stay then? You saying so you don't stay on property. So where were you staying?
Places like Indian Ridge, around the back of Hollywood Studios, sort of just outside of property.
Right.
But yeah, so we'd get a villa there with swimming pool, a few bedrooms, that sort of thing. One of the ones that I think would traditionally come. You can add them on Virgin Holidays now. A few bedroom villa,
and then somebody would drive to and from the parks.
Yeah. stereotypical white minivan.
The Brits are here.
The Brits are here, hello. Stick a Union flag in the window.
Would it be a case of going to the parks every day then, or would you make sure you just have a couple of days where you can like appreciate the pool and the villa and stuff?
No, we'd usually go to the parks every day.
Yeah.
But it ranged how late we'd stay, because obviously, like I say, we did enjoy those Orlando specific, not Orlando specific, but you know, those Americanisms restaurants. So we'd leave before dinner time some days, and then go for a quick dip in the pool at the villa, and then go for dinner. Occasionally we'd go back for the fireworks after dinner.
Oh, right, so you go back and then go back again.
Yeah, come out the park, get changed, go for dinner, go back into the parks for fireworks, those sorts of things.
Anything that is no longer at Walt Disney World that used to be there when you were little?
There's quite a few things that seem to have been vanishing off the park map since we last went in 2014, to be honest. It doesn't feel like that long ago. Obviously, we lost a lot of last year.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone did. But things like Ellen's Energy Adventure, the Great Movie Ride, things like that, I sort of miss those from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The Great Movie Ride specifically, I think, because of having the live actors in there.
I think that and Ellen's, they're in a way they're quite similar, because coming from the UK, they're one of the things that I remember going, just how big and ridiculous these attractions are. These are not like roller coasters or anything. These are just like drive-through. It's like a drive-through show.
Yeah, it's the size of those show buildings, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's because obviously if you think about British theme parks, places like Alton Towers or whatever, you don't get a lot of that theming that you get. It's just right, plonk a roller coaster here and sprinkle a bit of theming around the edges, but you can still see the entire thing. They were something completely different to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I enjoyed them. Also, I reckon, to be honest, a lot of people used Ellen's Energy Adventure as an excuse for a 45-minute nap.
Oh,
like,
so many people used to sleep on those.
Just sit down in some air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you went in like August.
Yeah. We used to go obviously a lot in the summer holidays and things, so it would have been rather warm.
You have a guilty pleasure? Anything that we can admit on this podcast that you love, that you wouldn't tell people in the street?
Well, probably wouldn't start singing Small World at them, but I absolutely love Small World. Going back to that about people sitting down and just enjoying a leisurely relaxed ride, I think that's probably what made that ride my grandfather's favourite. So yeah, just thinking back to him falling asleep on Small World, just enjoying a little sort of meander around through the country.
Yeah, it's better. What's the point of just having a sit down on a bench when you can go on an attraction for 10 minutes and have a sit down?
Keep everyone else occupied.
Yeah, exactly. So when do you think your next visit is going to be?
Hopefully. So my wife and I had a son last year, end of the year. So we're hoping to take him around a similar sort of time that I went on my first trip. So potentially early 2023.
Okay.
If he'll be approaching 2.5, and we watch a lot of YouTubers, Mr. Tracker, etc.
He's got a little boy at the minute.
Around.
Yeah, he's got a little buddy that he takes around. So yeah, got lots of good tips there from Tim and Jen. Yes,
absolutely.
I didn't ask you actually whether you go to any of the parks outside Disney, or do you just stick to Disney?
No, we're all in on everything. Universal, Kennedy. We used to go take a day to go to like the shopping malls and things.
Yeah.
I had a younger sister and things like that. She'd like to go. And we'd all like to go meandering around the shopping centres, because again, as we were saying about the size of things with Ellen's and the Great Movie Ride, it's the size of shopping malls, and they just didn't exist in this country back when I was thinking about it, or I certainly wasn't aware of them. If they were there in cities, I didn't see them where I grew up.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, there was no like Trafford centres back in those days.
Not on that scale, no.
Yeah,
like the Mall of America with 3 levels and massive fountains, great whopping things around the middle of them.
Well, I hope you can take your little boy in a couple of years' time and give him the Disney magic that you had.
Me too. Fingers crossed.
Pass on that family tradition. Passing it on.
Fingers crossed.
Well, lovely chatting to you, Jack. You will be back at the very end of this podcast to do your very special announcement. But meanwhile, I'll say have a magical day.
Thank you, and you.
We're always looking for guests to come on the podcast to chat about Walt Disney World, and as I say, it doesn't matter the last time you went or how many times you've been. If you love Walt Disney World and you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, just send me a message and I'll get in touch and we'll get something recorded for one of the future episodes. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Podmagical is where we are. And give us a like, give us a follow. Send me a message and I'll sort you out and we'll get you on the podcast. The top tip for this episode, you might be looking at booking at the moment, as a lot of people are, with some great deals on at the moment, and you're thinking, where shall we stay? And transportation is really important to you, and you're thinking about, well, the Riviera or Caribbean Beach, because they're on the skyline of one of the gondola stations is at Caribbean Beach, and that's a moderate resort. Riviera is very expensive. We'll go Caribbean Beach. That's a little bit cheaper. Go even cheaper than that. If it's transportation that's your main cost and you're not going to be in your hotel all the time, have a look at Pop Century and have a look for buildings 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are the cheaper buildings because they're not the preferred buildings at Pop Century, but also they're a little bit nearer to the gondola station as well. So if you want to be first in line for the gondola to get you to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, then that's where you need to be. Pop Century, buildings 3 and 6. If you can make a room request, that's where you need to be. If you've got any top tips, do let me know. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Podmagical is where we are. If you could give us a like and a follow. Also, Apple Podcasts. If you could subscribe, that just makes it easier to find for people as well. And if you haven't done this yet, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you could just leave us a 5-star review, that would be brilliant, because that just pops us up a little bit more and people can find their Walt Disney World podcasts. So if you could do that, that's brilliant. If you have done that already, thank you so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. We're not quite finished yet because Jack's going to be back in a moment. But for now, I'm going to say, please, stand clear of the doors.
Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas.